The Great Perhaps is set in 2004, right before the presidential election, and it follows the Casper family, which are five members of this family that lives in Hyde Park in Chicago. And there's Jonathan, who's a paleontologist who's been searching for this species of prehistoric giant squid, and his wife Madeline, who's an animal behaviorist, and she's doing this experiment with dominance in pigeons. And then there's their younger daughter Thisbe, who at the age of 14 has decided that she's going to try to find God. And then their oldest daughter Amelia, who has declared herself a Marxist. And then their grandfather Henry, who at the age of 76 has decided he's going to try to make himself disappear. And it's really about this family struggling with these big questions, these uncertainties in their life, and each in their own way trying to come to some sort of answer about what it means to live in 2004, to kind of deal with this age of fear that in 2004 the United States was really overwhelmed by. So originally, like most of the things that I write, the book was started as a short story about Thisbe, the youngest daughter, and her riding around her neighborhood on her bicycle, baptizing the different animals and searching for God. And then her relationship with her grandfather became part of the story, and then that became a separate story. And what became clear to me was all these characters had these questions about fear and uncertainty, and there was this relationship or familiarity with fear in each of their lives. And I realized that not only were the questions related, but it would be interesting to see what would happen if these characters were actually related to each other as in a family. And so it started kind of developing that idea. So there's the five main family members, but there's also a couple ancestors from the family that over the course of history we come to realize our characters are faced with that same question of fear and uncertainty all the way, as far back as the 16th century. For this book, I went back and reread Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, which was a book that deals with the firebombing of Dresden, but it does it with such wit and humor, and it's also a book that as you're reading it, you're not quite sure what the next chapter is going to look like. It has this great feeling of being very alive and engaging. So I wanted to look at how Kurt Vonnegut dealt with these questions of uncertainty and war, but in a way that didn't feel didactic or polemical. And then the other piece of literature was a play called The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. And he deals with this question of family in a really interesting way. He follows this family over the course of centuries. At first at the dawn of the Ice Age, and they're dealing with this catastrophe, and then it jumps to the Great Depression, and then to this kind of strange, surreal war. And it takes place over, millions of years, but it's the same family, and the questions that he had and the answers he came to about the importance of family was something that I wanted to explore and try to borrow or bring into the novel.